Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're gonna repot this Phalaenopsis orchid that I recently purchased. If you remember, I talked about this in a different video. This orchid is not the best purchase ever, and judging by how it looks like, you can see there's something not quite okay with it. But the placement in the pot is not really the biggest problem with this one, it's the stem. Luckily, until now, it didn't really extend much in the sense that it didn't go yellow or anything of the sorts, which is good, but we're still not out of the woods yet. I also don't like these spots on the leaves. I also don't like this discoloration on the leaves. I don't know what this is. I don't want it to be spider mites, but you never know. So today we're just gonna repot it, take a look at the root system, because through the pot I don't see much. I suspect it's not gonna be the healthiest. And even though this orchid is in bloom right now, I'm not looking to maintain these blooms on the orchid at the moment. She can always rebloom next year. I just wanna make sure the orchid is okay, see what's what with these spots, clean it up, check it for spider mites, take a better look at the stem, and so on. So that's what we're gonna do. I might decide to completely cut the flower spike, but I'm not sure. We'll see how everything looks and then we'll decide. So alrighty, the first thing we're gonna do, of course, is remove this stake. Oh, and the flower spikes are just leaning right now. I might put it back. Oh wow, I'm now seeing. So this flower spike has these branches, extremely branched flower spike, as you can see, and there's also a tiny flower spike in the back right there with couple more flowers. So yeah, this orchid is a pretty good bloomer, isn't it? So let's hope she is healthy enough to be able to maintain these blooms. So as we usually do, we're gonna squeeze the pot. Oh, this will be messy. Okay, let's see what we have here. This medium is really old and these roots are not the happiest. And this, oh, do you see what I see? This is the stem. This is a very old orchid, and this stem was buried. Okay, this might change my plans a little bit. I definitely will not bury this in the pot, but I don't want my orchid to be like this. Can you imagine? Like this in the pot? No. This is really awkward. Alrighty, let me get rid of this medium and I'll come back with clean roots. So here we are. Let me tell you what I did so far. So I cleaned the leaves because they had a lot of residue. And by the way, you remember those blue spots? I thought they were coming from some artificial dye, from possibly a blue Phalaenopsis, but some of you mentioned that it might actually be fungicide. And you're right, I think it actually was fungicide and not dye, which is okay, it got cleaned. But I am seeing something quite suspicious. So let me show you one of the older leaves. Some damage that I found on it. Really hard to maneuver this orchid. Do you see this? Now that is spider mite damage. That is the orchid flag virus, or at least it looks an awful lot like it. Good thing is the upper leaves don't seem to be affected. They do seem to have a different type of damage. Not sure if it's the orchid flag virus just acting up again, but hey, that's that. Now, since my laptop broke, I cannot look through the microscope and check for spider mites unless I go through the trouble of installing. Never mind, I'm not gonna do that. I checked the cotton pads for spider mites, and at this point I know them so well that I can actually see them. With my bare eyes, it doesn't look like it has spider mites, but for a good measure, I'm just gonna treat it with my oily kinda DIY insecticide. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check the info card right here or the description below. I am now handling spider mites quite well, so they don't scare me all that much anymore, but still I'm gonna spray it just in case it does have spider mites, because that is clear spider mite damage. I'm 99% sure at some point in her life this orchid had spider mites. And judging by this stem, she had a long life until now. So, in an unexpected turn of events, we shall not repot this orchid today. We're gonna do something else. So because the stem is so long, I cannot bury it inside the media. That's just disaster waiting to happen. So I would have to pot this orchid like so. So this should be the rim of the pot, which, no, it's very unsightly. So what I will do is actually cut it, and we're not gonna repot this orchid today. So let's take a look at the root system. As you can see, there are some roots forming up here. We also have some very old roots down here, but they're not looking the best. Well, they're still stiff. I do have some mushy roots. In any case, as long as the orchid has roots here, I don't really care all that much for the other roots. So what I'm thinking is to cut this rhizome, I think somewhere around here. Well, I'll start lower just to see how the rhizome is. So today's repotting video will actually be an experiment video. Alrighty, I will sterilize my pair of pruners the way I sterilize it is just dip it in alcohol. I usually let it sit here for about 10 minutes, and I think that's what I'm gonna do. And I'll come back and flame it as well, and then we're gonna get to work. Alrighty then, we're back. I sterilized my pair of pruners. I also flamed them, so we can go ahead and cut. And this is slightly intimidating, so I will make quite the big wound on this orchid because I suspect the whole axis is still alive. But cutting it will not kill the orchid actually, if you're a little careful. So what I want is to have roots on my orchid. So if these roots would not be here, I would definitely not be able to cut this rhizome the way I wanted to. And this amount of roots is not quite flimsy, considering that most of the affected roots and not so healthy roots are at the bottom. So first of all, I'm gonna start with the bottom and I'm gonna cut the bottom. I wanna go as high as possible, but let's see. I'm also gonna test with Fusarium since we're here, right? Let's see. I cannot tell. There might be something here, but I cannot tell. I'll check again when I cut further up. Actually, I'm not sure if we're talking about Fusarium because there are some fungal spots here and they're quite dark. So it's a good idea to actually cut them off as well. But as you can see, the stem is still alive. This is why we cannot pot this orchid right now. So I'm just gonna sterilize my pair of pruners once again before I make another cut. So again, I wanna go further up. Let's try here. Okay, this is actually where I wanna go. This would be a good length for the axis. Let's see if I cut here. Oh, wow. Alrighty, you know what? I'm not sure if we're dealing with Fusarium here because these fungal spots are kind of black, and as the leaves drop, they do tend to look like this. The axis can get all sorts of infections that the orchid can handle on her own. Also, I don't see any marks on the flower spikes. Well, never mind the residue, but there's no spots of Fusarium, so I don't think this orchid is Fusarium infected, which is good. But that's a nasty wound on my stem here. So we will need to seal off this wound and make sure it dries. As you can see, the amount of roots that I left on my orchid is quite decent. I do still need to cut a few roots here and there. I'll come back when I'm done. So here we are. After I cut the rhizome, one of the leaves fell as well because I actually cut the connection by mistake, but it was the leaf that had those spottings. So that leaf shall not be missed. I have a lot of leaves. Okay, next thing I want to do is to disinfect this wound and also the root system because I'm not sure if this orchid had snails in the medium. That medium was very old. I'm not sure for how long this orchid was staying in there. So I'm just going to use hydrogen peroxide 3% like I normally do. Spray the rhizome, but spray the root system as well. So I'm just going to let it fizz and then I'll come back with the final touch-up. Okay, so the final step is to try and seal this wound, try to make it dry faster than it normally will. And what better way to do so than with cinnamon powder. So I have some cinnamon powder on a little paper here. Just gonna dip this cotton disc because I don't have my Q-tips here. So I'm just gonna take a bit of cinnamon. This doesn't work. Okay, so what I will do is actually dip the stem into cinnamon because I don't have Q-tips around. Do you actually see what I'm doing? Anyway, I just want to dip it and cover it in cinnamon. There you go, that's all I wanted to do. And now we shall not pot this orchid because we want to keep this area as dry as possible. We also want to keep the roots hydrated and hydrate them every day, but potting this orchid would not be a good idea in my opinion at the time. So what I decided to do is use this pot. Do you remember? Yeah, this is one of my older pots. I just had it around here. I was actually looking for a sort of a vase, but I forgot I don't like vases, so I do not own one. This will have to do. It's also ventilated. It's much better than a vase actually. So it will keep the water from dripping all over the place, but also it will maintain the area ventilated and the stem will dry out pretty well in the setup. And these flowers right now, I'm so tempted to cut them. I'm so undecided. You know what I'm doing? I'm just gonna cut the big flower spike right here. So brace yourselves, you might cringe. I'm just gonna leave one of the flower spikes. You have to know something about me. I don't care all that much about flowers, at least initially. I want the orchid to thrive and to be good because I know I can always make it rebloom and even make it bloom much better. And like, you guys, this is not how a flower spike should look like. It should be cascading, right? It doesn't matter, it's personal preference. This does not look pretty, you guys. I'm trying my best to like this orchid, and I like it. I just don't like the way this flower spike grew. So off it goes. You ready? 3, 2, 1, and it's off. Is everybody okay? Well, I warned you. So this flower spike, you know what? I'm just gonna put it in a glass of water because it still has some flowers. It will not last all that long, but that's okay. Good news is we still have some flowers on my orchid, which might bloom. They might not fall actually. So this orchid shall remain like this for an indefinite period of time because I do want this rhizome, well, actually it's a stem, I want the stem to completely dry, callus over before I actually pot it. As you can see, the stem is pretty long. It will be a little bit buried inside the medium. I cannot pot it like this really. It's not gonna be stable in any way. So I need to bury it just a little bit. Being that I use chunky medium, Ceramis and Leca, it will not be soggy or anything of the sorts, but it will be humid. And whenever you're dealing with a lot of water, bacteria and fungi will proliferate as well, and that's not what you need with an open wound like this. So this orchid shall be kept like this. I will water it probably every day, and when it's time to repot it, we'll make another video. I'm gonna show you how the stem looks like, and hopefully the orchid will still be alive by then, because still I'm not convinced this orchid is 100% healthy. I don't like these spots. I don't see spider mites, but I don't know. The flowers don't look streaky or anything, so I don't think it's Embidium mosaic virus or Oncidium ring spot virus, but I don't know. This might actually be the fleck virus, and if you don't know what that is, I'm gonna link you down below to a video that I made about it. Don't worry, it's not such a bad virus. It is, but not so bad. And as long as you don't have spider mites, you don't really propagate it unless you don't sterilize your tools. It doesn't propagate all that easy just because you touched a little bit one of the leaves and then you touched another orchid. It doesn't work like that. It's a virus, it needs direct sap contact. So that's okay, she's not a danger for the community of orchids that I have. I see she's quite stiff, not dehydrated. She is a survivor. She produced a lot of flowers even though she was not the happiest, and it's easy to see she's not the happiest. Pretty mistreated, all that stuff, but let's hope we can give her a better life, and already I like her a lot more without that stem. That really doesn't help with anything. It might look bad that I cut it, but it doesn't really help with anything. All the amount of leaves are upwards. The orchid regenerates as it grows. It is normal for that stem to actually grow really, really big, and at some point even dry on its own. So really I didn't do any disfavors for this orchid, but now we have to make sure that this portion will dry out and will remain infection free, and that's why we're not gonna pot this one today. So alrighty guys, thank you for watching. Hope you found this interesting. You never know what you're gonna get, right, when you unpot orchids. If you'd like to watch more orchid videos from me, simply subscribe to my channel and make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss a video. I would also appreciate it if you rated this video below with a like if you've enjoyed it, or a dislike if you didn't. And with that said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye! So I was pretty sad that my Siamese dog Kiwi was not blooming this time because this pseudobulb looks quite great. I just need to stake it. But I took a closer look. Do you see what I see? I really hope this camera picks it up. There's something poking through right there. It has a pointed tip. I can see something forming. I think these are buds.